Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AhHa Moments. My name is Alban, and I'm joined by my partners, Hans and Kevin.
Hello.
Hello. Happy New Year.
Oh, come on. Kev,
really?
Too late.
Too late?
It's like
Mid-January is the cutoff. I didn't realize there was a statute of limitations on New Year's.
You know what is happy, though? Episode 6.
We've made it.
Still in business and still number 1 in Kosovo.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't look that up, please. Don't look that
our
up.
ratings are through the roof. Oh, by the way, the first episode of 2025.
That's exciting.
It is exciting.
I have an exciting update for Kevin.
I'm intrigued.
I think our podcast is actually having an impact thanks to your gripes with the world.
Tell me more.
So if the listeners don't remember, Kevin, what was one of the things that you really don't love about the business world that we live in?
Are we talking resort fees?
Resort fees.
Don't get
fees.
me started on the resort fee, the hidden fees. Just tell me the all-in price.
That, you pay $200, you show up somewhere, and the next thing you know, as you check in, they want another $40.
Wait, are you telling me that Kevin fixed it?
And the FTC took note.
Yes.
And as of this year, it is illegal for companies to hide fees when people show up to check into hotels or ticket to events and all these things. So nice work.
I didn't realize the feds listened to our podcast, so thank you. Appreciate it. If you are listening, I have a couple other things we can talk about later.
Well, I'll tell you what. If Atlanta Airport gets their act together because of this, we've done something great.
I think that would be at the top of my list still. Kevin, any other gripes you want to kick off to 2025 with?
How much time do you have?
A little bit.
We'll start with one. I was at the store the other day purchasing flour.
This should be good.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't know if you bought flour lately, but the packaging they put flour in, come on. Like they essentially take a pound of flour, the most messy product there is. It goes all over the place. And what do they package it in? A nice container? No, they wrap it in paper, right?
That's like always falling apart on the
always
shelf.
falling apart. We're going to put it in the thing.
There's always white powder all over the shelves.
It's just...
Do they not know we've invented plastic, right?
A plastic container. I've seen it.
You've seen it.
I'm going to write a letter to Pillsbury or Sir Arthur, or whoever, the King Arthur, I think is the fancy one. We're going to fix this problem.
This is where the environmentalists, they drew the line.
No,
They said plastic everywhere but flour.
but flour.
That's straws and flour.
How do you feel about packages inside of packages?
Well, like when you buy something on Amazon and it looks like a package that is a package and they put that package in a package,
Yeah.
I think we could probably cut out some packaging.
Some packaging for the
Yes,
world. It'd be a
yes.
better place, I think.
We'll report back on episode 7 to see if that's been fixed.
That's right.
We're excited to be here. We just had our 2025 kickoff with our company. Last year was a very interesting year, a good year, but a lot of things changing. And we just had our entire organization in to kick off the year, and we're looking forward to this year and the next few years that are coming in a fast changing world. Couple interesting things that I thought might be worth bringing up. Last year, okay? Last year, over 2,000 CEOs, and we're talking about CEO of Starbucks, Boeing, Hertz, Paramount, Nestle, Discover, Under Armour, Intel, Stellantis, Subway. These kind of folks left their post. A lot of times not due to their own volition. And it is a competitive world out there that's changing, just as we've said before. Change and disruption continue to be a key proponent of business, right? And at the same time, and Hans and you and I talked about this, in the last 10 years, 180, so a third of the S&P 500 companies have been replaced,
That's
a lot of
unbelievable.
change.
right?
We even looked up. We didn't realize how often they look at that. It's quarterly.
It's quarterly. They
So 180 companies
have been
in the
replaced.
last 10 years, in the last 40 quarters.
And then you had an interesting data point around the Mag 7.
Yeah, Mag 7, obviously the largest stocks, right? We're talking about NVIDIA, Tesla, Microsoft, Alphabet, Google, Apple. They make up 33% of the market cap of the S&P 500. Since its inception, that's the highest concentration 7 stocks have ever had in that index.
It's crazy.
Right.
And I think we're just still at the tip of the iceberg of the changes that are going to happen in the business world. And it's the reason we titled this episode was Elite, Not Elitist, is around, I think it's harder and harder to survive in the business world if you're not at the top of your game, and if you're not the one setting the tone, and if you're not the one being innovative and elite at your craft. What was really interesting as we looked at some of these things, right? I think we tend to want to be complacent and continue, hey, if we have a really big company, it'll just continue being what it is. But with the startups, especially like if you look at who enters the S&P 500, does seem to be the future of companies, which is that disruptive thinking, fast-paced innovation, and adaptability.
Absolutely.
Well, it was one of the key themes of our meeting as well, right? Was we want to be elite, not elitist. And it's very difficult. The world pushes you towards comfort. We need to get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
We need to push ourselves. All great things happen on the other side of being uncomfortable. And I think Kevin did a great job of kind of kicking that off too. Do you want to talk about your Charles Munger quote there?
Yeah, we talked a little bit. So, that the thought was, when I think about someone who's elite, I think through Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, rest in peace. I've always, been influenced by them or inspired by Warren. In fact, I go out to their annual conference every year in Omaha to get some, not only business learnings, but also personal learnings. And one of the things that they talked about at this year's conference, or I guess last year's conference, a gentleman in the crowd stood up and asked a question. He goes, "Hey, I'm hearing a lot of talk around inflation and potentially recession. What do I do for myself to make sure that me and my family is in a good place?" And Warren's answer was surprisingly simple, right? He essentially said, "Be the best at what you do. At the end of the day, the economy can't out-inflate away your skills. So if you're a doctor or a lawyer, or in our case, a consultant or a recruiter, or you name it, right? If you're the best at what you do, right, no one can take those skills away from you, and you're always going to be in demand."
Oh, I love it.
And so I want to get to our guests. We're very excited. Speaking of elite, so Hans, do us the honor and introduce our special guest.
Well, I'm very excited. We've had some good guests, but this might be our best get yet. When you're talking about being elite, you want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with elite people too. And I was taking a look at this because we joke, right? There's 700,000 consulting companies. There's million plus podcasts. What the world needed was one more, right?
Yeah.
People might say that about this guest too. So there's over 11,000 private equity firms in the U.S. One of which is Keystone Capital, headquartered here in Chicago. We got to know Keystone kind of late 2018, early 2019, and started building a relationship. They've been a wonderful partner of ours for almost half a decade now. And we've gotten to really know their founder, Kent Dauten. He's a legend in Chicago.
An absolute legend.
The father of private equity in Chicago. He has seen everything. And what I really respect about Kent is most bankers are just bankers forever. They've never run a business, right? And one of the things that really caught my eye is when he talked about, I don't want to be in that space. I don't want to tell businesses how to run without doing them myself. So he left a very lucrative position and said, I'm going to take over a business and see if I can make this successful. And it was wildly successful. It led to him starting Keystone Capital, one of those elite firms in a space where there's not many in that top 1%. So very happy, Kent, to have you on board.
Welcome
today.
We're
very excited to have you on AhHa Moments. If you wouldn't mind, just for the listening audience, you mind giving us a couple minute introduction to yourself and some of your history and what you've seen in the world?
Absolutely. And let me start by thanking you for the invitation. So far, I've really enjoyed your podcast.
Kevin's gripes.
I hope I don't detract from it, but happy to be here and happy to start with a little bit of background on myself. So I actually grew up a couple hours south of here in Champaign-Urbana, where the University of Illinois is. My dad was a business professor. My mom was the entrepreneur of the family, started a construction, student apartment, student housing business. So I kind of say that I had business for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which was quite the case, as well as every terrible job that every child of an entrepreneurial family has in the family business. I also helped a young startup down in Champaign look for venture capital funding. This would have been 45 years ago. You'll quickly figure out I'm a complete dinosaur in this space. Having started in venture capital before private equity was actually even a label in the field, and that would have been like 1979, and really was interested in the venture field because I like growth and building things. Also like the aspect of the investment business of actually interacting with the leadership team, and the vantage point being the absolute top of the organization. So you were most interested in whatever strategic issue was that was holding back that business from growing and being optimized. So joined a venture capital group that was affiliated with the seventh largest bank in the country, just a couple blocks away from us here. Started my career there, did some things in a variety of different industries, ended up spinning that off to form a firm called Madison Dearborn Partners downtown here. That's the firm that I left a couple of years ago to do my own entrepreneurial venture and actually operate and run a business. About half of the private equity venture finance community here in Chicago thought I was crazy to leave an established firm. And I can assure you, in the first 6 months after doing so, there were many times when I questioned my own sanity. So, but it was the best thing I ever did. We ended up, and I say we because my sidekick at Keystone, Scott Gwilliam, was a young associate at Madison Dearborn, and he joined as my CFO. I was the CEO. And we acquired a dozen businesses in the healthcare records management space, doing a build up there, and then eventually merged that into a large public company named Iron Mountain, where I've continued to be involved. And it's been great fun. As I reflect on my career, I alluded to the fact that I like to grow and build things. I was involved in a for-profit hospital company that went from 3 hospitals and less than $10 million of revenue to 75 hospitals and $6 billion of revenue. I've been involved in creating Madison Dearborn, which is, in fact, I was the one that proposed the spinoff from the bank to create it, which is a multi-billion-dollar investment firm. My medical records business, we merged into Iron Mountain when it was maybe $100 million of revenue or a little bit bigger. Today, it's about 4.5–5 billion of revenue, and
it's incredible.
28,000 employees in 40 or 40 plus countries around the world. So it's just been fun, whether in a hands-on operational sense or in a board and governance role to be involved in those kind of growth companies. And so I'll stop there unless there's more you want me to elaborate.
You're hired. You're the new CEO.
Yeah. What are we doing here? Ken, we've known you through your journey at Keystone, and the team that you've built is second to none. In fact, it's worth noting that we met a ton of teams in our journey at Inspire, and the entire reason we decided to partner with you guys was because the team that you built there. You clearly have had a few decades of experience, and the world's changed a lot in the last since you started, even before Madison Dearborn and the VC. What are some of the things that you've seen change at a high level, or trends that you've noticed that have, as we said in 2024, define the world differently now than it was 10 years, 20 years, 30 years ago?
I could answer it from a couple different angles. I think in a general business sense, the pace of change that businesses have to think about and navigate is just accelerated and accelerated and accelerated. There's also been a little bit of a change in leadership and management style that I've noticed over the years as I reflect on it. And you guys are probably a good example of that, which is early in my career, it was much more hierarchical, almost dictatorial. The CEO, whatever the CEO wants, he gets, he dictates, he barks out orders. And in the last, certainly 25, 30 plus years, it's become much more collegial, much more collaborative. That old style, I think, drives away talent. And the best people don't want, one guy at the top to make all the decisions for them. That would just drive away the best talent. So I think those are a couple of reflections. The statistics you mentioned about turnover in large companies are probably the best evidence of that.
Yeah.
I have not heard that particular statistic. What was it, the last 10 years? Or
10 years. 100.
Which is pretty powerful. But I have heard, if you look back like 50 years, there's like 3 companies that are still in the 500 or something like that.
We looked it up. JP Morgan's still there.
Yeah, the oldest one.
and hopefully they're not going anywhere because they're my bank. They're holding on to my cash. But, those statistics are just mind-blowing, really.
It really is.
When you think about going back, and we talked about the changes that you've seen over the last 3-4 decades in the space, there's probably also some commonality and some things that are the same, right? So what are some of the attributes that you've seen that help make for a successful leadership team?
There's no question it all starts with where you ended, which is leadership teams, right? It's all about people. And that kind of relentless pursuit of talent, and not just selection and recruitment, but investing in your people. Professional development is just critical in getting the best decisions from your team and also retaining them. The other characteristics of a business, and you guys here at Inspire 11 are, what you should ask me is, why in the world would Keystone have invested in you guys? And you're the perfect example of that. It's the competitive advantage and kind of sustainable business model to create above average growth in the environment. And the only way you achieve above average growth is to innovate and be incredibly elite at what you do. I think in your case, what have we partnered? 4 years, 5 years, something like that?
Just over 4 years, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think one of our team members met with you probably a couple of years before that.
Oh, yeah.
You were a little bit younger and earlier stage than our particular strategy at Keystone. But then we met with you like a year later, and you had not only achieved what you said you'd do, but you exceeded it. And then I think another year went by, and we're like, we can't afford to be a bystander in this. We got to invest. And it's been a wonderful partnership and in every sense of the word.
We appreciate that. I'll say in different industries, and we spent half of our 2025 kickoff making fun of consulting because our industry gets sometimes a really bad rep around. And again, we all need to innovate and be different. And consulting gets a bad rep. And we talk about how we live in a consequence-less industry where if we perform a project and we get paid, we don't know if the client's going to be successful or not. Right. So we've tried to change some things. What I think is unique about you guys and what you've done, private equity sometimes gets a bad rep, right? From a sense of...
Oh, I got to talk. So right before we did our deal, obviously...
Be kind now, be kind.
2020, we're in the middle of COVID, and... Kevin and I in particular, I know Alban always appreciates, but we're big fans of The Onion, the parody newspaper.
Oh, yeah, this is great.
And they had a cartoon out there that said looters were being arrested for not first starting a private equity firm.
I love that. No, but can you track down that cartoon?
I'll find it for you.
It's really good. But no, private equity sometimes gets a bad rep. And now we all know that's a blanket statement, but what your organization, what you've been able to build, you've innovated, right? And you've never treated us or any portco that we met with as anything other than true family as part of this bigger operation. I'm kind of curious, and I know, and for those of you who don't know, a lot of times private equity firms will get involved in an asset or portco or investment, and they have specific timelines and specific things you're trying to hit, and you actually cared about the business and the people and what their goals are. And you've had organizations part of your fund as long as 20 years, and you've had others less, and you decide to be different and unique by that, which is why you're beloved. How did you think of that? What drove that strategy?
The impetus behind that was really the fact that I had spent a good dozen or more years in private equity. So I had kind of seen it from the other side. And with both good firms and good people, so don't get me wrong, I don't have any regrets about my involvement there. But our two hallmarks at Keystone were really using our own capital.
Yep.
Rather, this OPM, other people's
money. Sure.
Which on the surface, leads you to think, well, you'd be more casual or not as careful. I don't know that that's really the case with most people, but it comes back to kind of goal alignment with the firms you invest in, as well as all your service providers, and just taking a long-term view of the world. And then the second piece in the puzzle was really what you alluded to earlier about a little bit more operational orientation and sensitivity. Not that we wanted to invest in a company and the next day arrive on their doorstep and say, hey, we want to help you run your business. It's very much a kind of management by exception of where can we be helpful to you.
Yeah.
And also preaching, which I've done from day one, that our portfolio companies, even though we are an owner of the business, our management teams don't work for us. We work for them. We're a level of almost what I would call corporate support services that the average smaller or medium-sized growth business can't afford to bring in-house. And so we can roll up our sleeves. If somebody needs to build a new plant, we can jump on a plane and go shop real estate with them to help them think about that and how it might be laid out.
Yeah.
If it's redesigning an incentive plan system for a sales team or whatever, we can roll up our sleeves there. And certainly the experience that we had in actually running our medical records business that I touched on a little earlier was very helpful in that regard.
Well, I think your strategy has obviously been a differentiator for you all. You've been very successful, continued to grow without getting into the details. But I can tell you from our side, and these guys jump in here, but you've lived by every single one of those values, and it's been one of the greatest partnerships of all time, which is other than us making fun of Bill sometimes, which is
Sorry, Bill.
Well, you learned that from us.
but it has been like, hey, if you need us, we're here. If you don't, keep going. It's been a really wonderful partnership, and we are very grateful we went on that journey with you guys.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's very, very much mutual. And it's interesting because I'm at the point in my career, dinosaur that I am, that one of my biggest contributions, I think, to the firm is exactly that point that you made in terms of the values and trying to make sure that we preserve those kind of original founding values and philosophy about our business. And some of it that relates to some of the topics we've touched on, whether it's as well as your topic of elite, not elitist, whether it's staying humble, being low ego. I constantly remind our team not to confuse being the smartest guy in the world with a rising tide in the markets that have made all your investments look good over the last 30 years. So it's important, and a big part of that too, as you know, because you've been growing incredibly fast. It all starts with selection of people. If you pick the right people. Because really your culture and your values are most reflected in who you invite to join your team.
Right.
That's right.
Well, we tell people, right, our leadership team, but all the way down to our newest consultant, if you ever have a question on the right things to do, go look at our core values. Yeah, it's pretty simple at the end of the day, So I'd be remiss, since we have you here and you have such a wealth of knowledge, in this space. Our theme for our meeting last week was the road to 11, right? Everything's 11 with our name and everything.
Yeah.
So 11 is we're a little over 8 years old as an organization. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about our 3-year plan and how we're getting to our 11th anniversary and what do we want to be when we get there. I would love to hear from your perspective, from Keystone's perspective, what do the next 2 to 3 years look like? Where do you think you'll be investing more time in? What kind of changes within the industries that you already invest in? Are you looking at what does 2025 through 2027 look like?
Sure. No, I should caveat it by saying I don't have the perfect crystal ball, but we've already seen a lot of changes in the private equity world. Obviously, the dinosaur that I am over 45 years, and you commented whether 11,000 firms now. I think when I joined this fancy schmancy industry 45 years ago, there were 40 firms.
Wow. Just incredible.
Yep. It's grown. And like any industry, including consulting probably, as an industry grows, it matures. A lot of the competitors get more specialized. There's probably a consultant for every vertical, just like there's a venture capital or a private equity investment firm that will do just cannabis or that will do just retail or just infrastructure, you name it. So, and I think from an employment point of view, as we think about motivating and attracting people and talent, it takes a little bit of extra effort to to really motivate people to join your team and give them that kind of extra experience that lets you, sets you apart from the other 10,999 firms. But back to your question, just real briefly, I think the capital markets have been kind of sidelined or in the doctor's clinic the last couple of years. M&A activity's been off pretty sharply for the private equity crowd. The IPO market's been very soft for the more venture-oriented crowd. I think there are early signs that's going to happen, although there's been a lot of wolf cried, so I think people will believe it when it happens. Certainly, the political landscape has changed a lot, and it's still pretty unpredictable as far as I can tell, but I think that's likely to be more pro-business. Interest rates have certainly come down a little bit and probably will come down a little bit more, which helps. So I think overall, in answer to your question, I'm optimistic about 2025 and feel like we're certainly going to have a good year at Keystone, and I think the economy as a whole and the markets will be good.
Fantastic.
Well, no, that's music to Kevin's ears.
That's right. All of our ears. Absolutely.
I think, going from one of 50 to one of 11,000, would you say that it was easy to continue staying on course and whatever? Would you say you had to be on top of your game?
Well, you definitely have to stay on top of your game in anything. If you're not moving forward, you're slipping backwards. Is one of my many sayings. As I reflect back, on the other hand, and to somewhat contradict that, there's been an awfully nice wind at my back, right? I mean, the private equity, private investments, alternatives, whether it's venture, PE, or other kinds, real estate, secondaries, what have you, have just exploded, and I think continue to have the other statistics that I often hear about with the ones you cited on the S&P 500 is, there are fewer and fewer public companies today. So many of them have either gone private or they've merged and consolidated, and so if you're a money manager or anybody with capital to invest, you have fewer alternatives on the public side.
Yeah.
Than you do on the private. So I think we've touched on it during the course of this discussion, which is the world is changing so much, and I haven't even begun to touch on your world in terms of technology and all the things going on with AI. And as the world tries to sort that out, you'll get a kick out of this. But my next door neighbor, who's a lawyer with a big firm here in town, just invited me to join his AI. Effectively like a book club for AI. And he's invited some pretty interesting people, some professors, and I'm like, I'm pretty low tech, but I could, it's all about just a discussion to try to figure it out, because I don't think the world is quite figured out. It's got enormous potential, but the applications are a little slower in coming than I think some people thought.
I think to that, I actually think that's why we're positioned well as an organization, because we agree with you. We think, just like everything else, it's an incredible technology, and then we've been working with it for a long time now.
Kevin and I actually started an AI book club where we have AI write books.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then we just say,
discuss it with each other.
and then we're just like, which one's the funniest?
But it's been.
Is it like my wife's book club where they serve wine at the
That's right.
Yes.
But no, I think the application of it will be the differentiator, which is I'm glad you're going to go to that. Kevin, I often think part of remaining elite is not doing something revolutionary every day. Sometimes it's just little improvements. You gave a little presentation that I think you should share with the audience of your 211.
Yeah. So, often when we think about being elite, right, I always get caught up in thinking it has to be this some grand thing, right? This big gesture. At the end of the day, right, it is just kind of these small incremental things that you do each and every day. And my favorite metaphor is the idea, at 211 degrees, water is hot. At 212 degrees, water begins to boil. And with that boiling water makes steam. And with steam, you can power an engine, right? A train, a giant machine, et cetera. And it's that that little degree, right? Seemingly insignificant 1 degree temperature
Sure.
going from 211 to 212. It changes. I have hot water to now I can move a giant machine.
Sure.
It's that continual investment.
It's that
but
continuous
little bit at a
investment,
time.
right? That little bit more, right? To be elite, to try a little harder, to push a little further, is what we were sharing with our team this week.
And sometimes it's joining the AI book club. Sometimes it's going to the Munger meeting. And
That's right.
And sometimes it's going to Loyola game.
Sure. Yeah. Tonight, let's go. Go Ramblers.
Go Ramblers.
Kent, I know that as you and like you mentioned, as you looked at 25, 26, 27, beyond, I know philanthropy is important to you, and it's important to us, and I think it should be a part of everybody's fabric, especially if you're in business. You've been fortunate. I know you're involved with a ton of organization. Curious where your heart lies and where you're investing from a philanthropy perspective.
Sure, it's a great question, and honestly, the amount of time I spend on my philanthropic volunteer work is rapidly approaching, if not exceeding, my day job, which is deliberate, by the way. My family's been blessed, and I've been blessed stumbling into this career path of venture capital, private equity. We have more resources than we need, and so we don't have unlimited resources. So we want to make sure that we get the best bang for the buck, just like you do in business when you make decisions. And so in our case, there are probably 2 causes that are at the top of the list. One is the field of brain science and brain health. 2 of our 4 young adult kids were diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is a very complicated brain condition, despite my wife and I having no known family history of it. And so one of them's doing great, one of them's had a tougher go of it, but it's almost like a higher authority saying, all right, this should be your cause. And so I spend an awful lot of time, and we've done some pretty cool things in the scientific research as well as the treatment and care side of that. The second area would be education. I think education is the big equalizer. We probably supported, 20 or more education-related causes here in the city of Chicago. Some of them maybe more national, just because it's a travesty that kids grow up in this city without the tools they need to have as successful a life as any of the 4 of us did.
Yeah.
And I think there's progress being made there, but there are a lot of problems in the world. So we need a lot of volunteering, a lot of philanthropy, a lot of successful business people to say, I want to give back and really, create some meaning and purpose with this past success I've had.
Well, what I love about what you've done too, and it's a testament to your character, you could write checks and money is important, right? But you always lean in and give back as well. So I remember we have a common platform in Big Shoulders here in Chicago. You were on the board. My wife was on the board. And we as an organization are really keen on charitable give back, especially locally. And we do things in several different areas, but in particular, we do a give back day with Big Shoulders, and we were packaging up food and services, and you and your whole team came out, stood
was
side by side with us.
I don't think anybody in our small office knew that you guys were going to be there. It was such a bonus.
Yeah. That was a great day.
It was so fun.
Although it was cold, as I recall.
was very cold.
We were outdoors distributing food, but
Very cool.
It's a great example because the look in people's eyes when they're hungry. I mean, what was the last? We just take for granted the fact that you've got a hot meal waiting for you.
No, absolutely.
To buy
and to what you said earlier too, there is no shortage of need, right? I mean, these are areas that we're focused on, but as you look in the world, it's just there's an unlimited need.
I mean, we had people of various different ages, down to my 15-year-old daughter there, and for her to be able to look up and see that people are giving back with the blessings that we're given, it's just fantastic. So
that's huge. No, and
thank you for
hats
doing
off to you guys for doing that. I know that's part of your culture, your value system, and frankly, it's. I say this all the time, which is philanthropy, volunteering, giving back. It's selfish. I get so much more out of it than the organization does. I mean, they think they do, and it's also selfish from a business point of view because it promotes the attraction of the best people who are consistent with your value system. So it's terribly important, and kudos to you guys for doing that.
Likewise, thank you.
We couldn't agree with you more. I as an Evans scholar, I got to jump on your head. Well, first of all, I'm glad you're behind. Mental health is and it's become, now it's getting the appropriate attention because for a long time it was a very much not spoken about.
Exactly.
And so thank you for being involved in that. And on the other side of the education, Evans scholar here.
Yes.
I'm lucky to be partnered with two folks who are like, hey, can we please contribute to this organization? Because we agree with you. Education is the equalizer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Regardless of background, if we make the tools and the education available to everybody, that is what changes lives every single day.
Absolutely.
So we couldn't be more aligned. I got to say this before you walked in and we were talking about our episode title here because we'll wrap up. You really are the embody of elite, not elitist.
Well,
and all the things that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We know you're busy.
No, I'm happy to do it. I'm excited about it. I was a little naive on what I was getting into, but I knew it would be fun. So
yeah, no, we have a little fun with it. And anything else from you guys?
No, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Yeah, no, and I would just, our aha moment for the audience, right, is there's plenty of very successful people that aren't very nice. And I think where we get along really well is you can be elite and be kind. You can be elite and be collaborative. You can be elite and not be elitist. And it's really important to understand that fine line. And that's why we like to surround ourselves with people like yourself, and very appreciative of the partnership, appreciative of you coming in and giving your time here, and very appreciative of all the philanthropic efforts you put into the world.
Right back at you, and great to see you guys. It's a great way to start 2025.
We're excited for 2025 and beyond. Thank you again, and we'll be with you guys all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.